Hey Kevin, Property Soldier here. Now, a lot of people could be making a lot more money in serviced accommodation if they did a few things with their photos, because photos are extremely underestimated in terms of their importance to help you make money in serviced accommodation. So I've got some tips to help you make an awful lot more money because you are getting some of these or you know, as many of these things right as possible with your photos. Now, the problem is that people take an iPhone photo or, you know, an Android photo or something like that, and they think, oh wow, that looks all right, that's not too bad, I can save myself, you know, 100 quid, 150 quid here, maybe even £200, okay, on having a professional photographer. And that is actually a very expensive mistake, in my opinion, for people to make, because, you know, one of the things that I do just to highlight this when I'm doing trainings on in-service accommodation is I show an iPhone photo of, you know, a room, a bedroom or a lounge or you know, whatever. I show the different photos and I ask for feedback. I say, look, does this look okay? Would you book? You know, does that look nice? And, you know, people are sort of nodding and saying, yeah, that looks fine. And then what I do is I show the exact same camera angle, the exact same camera shot that a professional photographer took of the same room, of the same, you know, bedroom, lounge, etc. And the difference is stark. The difference is amazing, and the things that the delegates who are, you know, at the training are saying, wow, well, it looks bigger. It looks brighter because there's professional lighting going on, and obviously they can do things, the professional photographer with Photoshop and things like that afterwards, just to increase the colour and the brightness and all that sort of stuff. And it looks cleaner. It's really important that when it's nicely brightly lit and it's got the nice wide angles and things like that, it looks bigger and it looks brighter and it looks cleaner. And you know what? You have literally got about half a second for your photo on your listing to jump out at people and to make people book you. Literally, people are just swiping, and unless something jumps out and grabs their attention, they just keep swiping, and that can, you know, cost you a lot of money if they swipe past your photo because it looked okay, but it didn't look amazing. And so that's why it's really important to get these things right. So I've got some tips to help you on this type of thing. So the first thing I highly recommend, unless you are a really good, you know, amateur photographer, or unless you are a professional photographer, I highly recommend that you get a professional photographer to do your photos. Really, really important. So clearly recommendations are going to help you. If you can get somebody to recommend a photographer for you to use and they've used them, that's going to help. And if you can have a look at the photos that they provided, that's a really good way of doing it. But if you haven't got that, you can seek recommendations. You can go onto the different communities, the Facebook communities, etc., asking for recommendations. You know, the service accommodation ones are better, but, you know, even HMO photographers can are professional photographers. So yes, get recommendations, go into the communities, post on your own Facebook profile as well, asking for recommendations. Ultimately, you can use Google. You can Google professional photographers in your town in order to get a decent professional photographer. And ideally, they will have taken photos of SA units before, and you can have a look at the portfolio and see the standard. Clearly, you're going to get quotes and you're going to find out how much. Now, don't scrimp on how many photos. I do recommend that you get at least 20 photos for your OTA listings, your online travel agent listings, your booking.com, your Airbnbs, etc. Because the more time people spend on your listing, the higher up the algorithm it goes. Okay, so the higher up at booking.com and Airbnb's algorithm it goes, because it tells those platforms that your site is getting attention, and therefore people are more likely to buy. So it pushes you up the algorithms, pushes you up the listing. So more photos the better, but obviously people are more likely to scroll through your photos if they are good photos and ticking all the boxes that I mentioned earlier on. So the other way you can do this in order to help you get a photographer, so I'm giving you lots of different ways of getting you a photographer, is you can actually go on to Airbnb in your patch, in your area, and find well presented SA units on Airbnb. So the reason I say Airbnb is because what you can do is you can message the host or the SA management company, whoever it might be, and ask them to compliment them. Say, the photos look fantastic. Who would you mind telling me who did them for you? It's a if you don't ask, you don't get type scenario. If they're happy to give you that information, then fantastic. And they might well say, yeah, we used XYZ photographer, and here's their details. Okay, so definitely worth doing that as well. So when are you going to get your photos done? Now, ideally, not always easy to do, but on a nice bright day, because that's going to help with the lighting. And get it booked in for after you have had all your furniture delivered, etc., etc., because it's really important that you don't get it booked for the same day as your furniture and everything's being delivered, because if there's a delay or anything like that, that's going to cause an issue. So at least the day after all of your stuff gets delivered. Now, some people have a scenario where the furniture company provide a photography service, and they want to just get the property presented and all the furniture assembled, and then immediately take the photos, and that has caused a bit of an issue sometimes for people who say, well, I didn't have the telly set up, or didn't have the telly yet, or didn't have that yet, and that's when the photos got done, and I would have preferred the photos to have been done after that to get the place properly presented with everything. So that's just something for you to consider, whether or not you want to wait until the day after all the furniture has been delivered, so that you can present the property as best as you can. Now, some tips. Sometimes professional photographers will do this, sometimes they won't. So clearly, if you can think about these things, you can help the professional photographer. So make sure that the beds are made, okay? And make sure that you've got white hotel standard linen on the beds. It's fine to have a throw or something like that at the base, just to add a bit of colour, and some pillows or some cushions to add a bit of colour. That's fine, but hotel standard white linen, definitely. Don't go for this, stuff you bought in Argos or something like that that's coloured and patterned and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't last very long. What happens when a pillowcase goes missing or whatever? Okay, so just don't go there. Hotel standard laundry, that's for another post, but anyway, do that. And make sure the wires and leads are hidden and out of the way, okay, because they just make it cluttered. So definitely declutter. Less is more. Don't have too much busy stuff going on in the picture, and make sure you've got the toilet lid down. So some people say toilet seat. I actually prefer the seat and the lid to be down. No one needs to see the bowl or anything like that. They will know that there's one there. Okay, so have that down. And I just can't emphasize enough, make sure that everything is nicely and professionally lit in there. Okay, so in your bathrooms, etc., especially nice and bright, because that makes it seem brighter and cleaner. So really, really important. Now then, I said earlier on about having lots of photos, so 20 plus I recommend. Different platforms allow a different amount, but at least 20. So don't scrimp on how much the package you go for the photographer and say, okay, I'll just have 8. So you want lots. Now, you might think, well, I've only got a few rooms. What on earth would I do with all those photos? So it's important that you have the main camera angles of the rooms, but then also have some close-ups. So you don't need to get everything into every single, into one photo. Have the close-ups of your nice, lovely toiletries that you're having in the bathroom. So have a shelf with your toiletries lined up. Have a close-up of your teas and coffees and things like that. Have a close-up of your items, your appliances that are nice quality items. You know, you might have a coffee maker or a toaster, microwave. Things like that are going to sell the benefits of your property, and it helps you have more photos. So it helps with the algorithms, and you're showing the guests or your potential guests all of the different things you're offering. A really good one is to have a photo of your smart telly. So I do recommend having a smart television, so that people can have their own Netflix, where you could have Netflix switched on and a photo of Netflix. Okay, so you can even have a photo of your or a screenshot of your last 5-star review or your 10 out of 10 review that you got via the Airbnb or booking.com. So it's just to give you some ideas of how you get these extra photos, because I'm telling you, they will help you make more money, and if their photos are good, that will make people stop scrolling and literally press the screen on their phone, and then you have got a booking. Now, another really cool thing to do, so one of the things that I do when I'm mentoring people is listing optimization. And quite often when I'm mentoring people, I've got a group of people in a room, and what we do is show all the different photos on their listing, and we get everyone to vote on which photo would make them most likely to book that serviced accommodation unit, and then you can prioritize and put in order your really good photos. So you might have some good ones at the back, and so the close-up ones in the middle, but definitely the really good ones at the front of your listing, because that's what's going to get you booked. And so that's called listing optimization. But what you can do as well is you can ask for feedback on your own social media, and literally show everybody your photos that you've had done, and ask people to give you feedback on which photos would make them more likely to book your serviced accommodation if they were looking for accommodation. So that ticks several boxes. Okay, it helps you choose the right photos, because the ones you think are great might not necessarily be the ones that your guests might think are great. Okay, so the majority rules on this. So go with the ones that get the most votes when you are listing this on your social media. The other thing, the reason why this is really cool, is your marketing. At the same time you're doing that on your social media, your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter and whatever you might be, you are marketing your serviced accommodation units. You are marketing your serviced accommodation business. It's going to help you, landlords come to you as well. It's going to help maybe raise joint venture finance. That's just something to create content as well for your social media. But importantly, it's going to help you know which photos are going to give you the most bookings. Now, another thing that I definitely highly recommend that you do is with your sofa bed in your serviced accommodation unit. So I recommend having sofa beds. Quite often comes down to how many bathrooms you've got in the property, but if you've got a 2-bed property and it's got a bathroom, one bathroom, you can sleep up to 5, so therefore you might have a sofa bed in the lounge. Okay, if you've only got one lounge and you've got 3 bedrooms, then you might decide not to go for a sofa bed, but it depends. But on most situations, I choose to go for a sofa bed. So yes, take a photo of the sofa bed, but from exactly the same angle, take a photo of the sofa bed made up, dressed, so that people can see that it's a nice sofa bed. If it's a nice wide or it's a double-sized sofa bed, they can see what they are getting, but they won't get confused and think that that's another bedroom. Okay, so they see the sofa bed and then the exact same angle, they see the sofa bed made up. So this is something, even if you're having a professional photographer, that you can influence a professional photographer and ask for that to get done, because again, you're selling the benefits. You're showing that, let's say there's a 2-bed property and it's got a sofa bed and 3 people are booking, that each one of them is going to have their own separate place to sleep, and it just makes it a lot easier for them to understand it if they're seeing the photos in order, in sequence, okay, with the sofa bed and then the sofa bed made up. So I think I've covered all of my tips and tricks for you. Hopefully you found that useful. If you did, give me a like, and if you've got any comments, any questions about any of the things that I've covered here, then write those in the comment section, and I will endeavour to answer any of your questions, any of your comments, etc. If you found that useful, everybody, here's to your service accommodation success, and I will see you soon. Take care.